Hey, what's good, everybody? It's LB of the BoomBox Guru channel. I'd like to welcome you guys to today's video. So it's been a long time since I did one of these BoomBox Talk videos, and I got inspired to do this particular video through the Sea of Tranquility channel. Pete Pardo, he did a video back in December of last year where he talked about why he buys CDs, and it kind of inspired me to want to pretty much discuss why I still like to buy physical music. Because there's some people, when I mention that I still buy CDs, they kind of look at me kind of crazy, like, really, you still buy CDs and so forth. So I kind of wanted to make a video discussing and explaining why I still buy physical music and why I mainly prefer that over digital or streaming. So as you can see behind me, I am more of a CD person than a vinyl guy, although I do own some vinyl records. Most of you that watch my channel, you've seen a few of my vinyl update videos, and I have gotten back into purchasing vinyl a little bit here and there recently. But the reason why I still like physical music, and I'm doing this off the whim, so I may go into different directions with this, but I've learned that I have more of an appreciation for the music when I have a physical copy. There was a period probably a little over 10 years ago where I kind of got into the whole digital thing, just buying downloads or streaming stuff. And that was cool for a brief moment, but one thing that I noticed is that I didn't really I didn't really have much of appreciation for what I would get. It's like I would listen to the albums for maybe like 2 or 3 days, and then I would quickly forget about them, and it just didn't have a lasting effect on me, and I didn't know what that was, and then I realized it's because I'm somebody that likes to have the physical. I like having CDs because it comes with the liner notes. You get the booklet, you get the pics and everything like that. I'm somebody, I like to look in the liner notes and see who produced the songs, like where it was recorded at, what other uh, writers contributed to the song, what instruments were played, what all the involvement was into creating the specific songs for the record. I like to look at that and read that stuff. I've always done that, and it's also very more entertaining when you know the artist has the lyrics to a lot of the songs to go along with it, that you can sit back and listen to the songs and you can read the lyrics, and you don't really get that with like digital and streaming, and that's another big thing with physical music. You have a sense of ownership. It's like, yo, I own this is mine. You don't really own it when you're just streaming, like music. You're basically just renting. You're basically just renting that stuff. And you know a big example of that is like Snoop Dogg, for instance. Recently when he acquired Death Row Records, he took down most of all the Death Row's music catalog, except for I think Tupac's stuff, and I believe Dr. Dre's The Chronic is still up on there. I'm not sure, but he took pretty much everything else. His stuff, the Dog Pound, Lady of Rage, the soundtracks, the compilations, all of that. He snatched it all off of streaming platforms, and he has a pretty good reason for why he did that. But I just remembered that when that first happened, a lot of people was mad. A lot of people was upset about that because they didn't have access to that music anymore. But people like me who still enjoy CDs, physical music, I wasn't really tripping on it that much because it's like, well, I already own Doggy Style and the Dog Food album and all that other stuff. I have all of that on my iPod right here. Most of that stuff is right here on my iPod Classic. Yes, and I still own one of these, but I wasn't really tripping because it's like, well, I can listen to that anytime I want to. I can pull the CD out here off the shelf anytime I want to and blast it in my car if I want. So I wasn't really tripping. But people who probably got rid of all their physical music when streaming and stuff came to the forefront, they was upset about it because they don't have access to that stuff anymore. And I'm not trying to boast about it, but I'm just saying, if you when you have physical music, You don't have to worry about that. When artists or record labels decide they want to take certain albums off the internet, off the digital platforms because of legal issues or because the artist has some issues or whatever, you if you got the physical CD, you don't have to worry about that. Unless that particular album is exclusively digital, like a lot of these newer artists are doing now. But I wasn't really tripping on that. And I know me and a lot of other people who fall in the same boat. We wasn't really complaining about him doing that because we already own most of that stuff physically, so we can grab it anytime we want. And I remember I put up a post on Instagram where I said that that's one of the many things that I've come to realize with everything that's happened with Snoop and everything taking the stuff off the streaming platforms is that physical music still does matter, because if you got the physical copies, you're not really tripping on whether he takes that stuff down or not. You can still listen to that music anytime you want to. So that's another key factor, is that you have that sense of ownership, because it's like, man, I actually bought this. And that's where more of the appreciation comes from, because all the stuff that I own, it's like, especially when I get something that's like a rare gem or something like that, it's like, oh man, I can't believe I actually have this, and I can grab it and just look at it and be like, man, I actually own this now. And that brings me to another point. There's a lot of stuff in my music collection. There's a lot of stuff that is rare. It's rare stuff that's been out of print for years that I've managed to find, and I'm fortunate enough to have in my collection. There's been a couple of CDs that I've purchased recently that have been out of print for years and haven't been available for the masses to purchase, and I actually found it online for a very reasonable price, and I own it, and it feels good to be able to grab it anytime I want to and look at it and be like, yes, man, I finally own this. I have this. And going back to, like, the rarities of some of these things, a lot of this rare stuff is not available on streaming platforms. Because I have some rare stuff. Like, for instance, I recently bought the first Widowmaker album, Blood and Bullets. All my heavy metal fans who watch the channel know what I'm talking about. But the first album, Blood and Bullets, essentially that's the best album that Widowmaker put out. But unfortunately, that album is not available on streaming platforms. Only the second album is. But I have the first one, so if I wanted to listen to it on Spotify, I wouldn't be able to hear it. But thankfully, I have that physical CD, and I have it on my iPod to where I can listen to it anytime I want to. There's a hip hop group that I listen to called Yak Fu Front. They released a very classic album back in the mid '90s that's not available on Spotify. But I have the physical CD. I also have it on my iPod Classic, so I can listen to it anytime I want to. I'm not at the mercy of the streaming platforms for when I want to listen to music. I bought the Made Men album, Classic Limited Edition. Made Men, Benzino, his group. That album is not available on streaming platforms, but I have that physical CD, and it's on my iPod, so I can listen to it anytime I want to. So, like I'm saying, when you have rare music that isn't available on these digital or streaming platforms, when you have the physical copies, you can listen to them anytime you want to. Because a lot of these bands don't have stuff on there. There's this industrial metal band called Crawl that I listened to. Their first album, neither one of their albums are on streaming platforms, but their first record, which I own, I couldn't find it on Spotify. I couldn't find it on iTunes or anywhere else. But I had that physical CD, and I was able to rip it to my iPod, so I can listen to that anytime I want. And that also goes into another point where, a lot of these artists, some of them don't have their full discographies on the digital platforms. They really don't. I'm trying to think of an example, but there's been a few artists that I've looked at on Spotify where they don't have their full discography. There's certain albums that are missing. Well, Widowmaker is a good example. Like, the second album is available, but the first one isn't. And just like Snoop Dogg's full discography is not available on streaming now, because everything that he did with Death Row, Doggy Style, The Dog Father, Murder Was the Case, that's no longer available on streaming platforms. He took it down. I mean, everything after that, starting with No Limit to where it is now, is available. But if you want to listen to some of the other stuff like Murder Was the Case or whatever, it's not available. And then there's a lot of it's just a lot of artists don't have their full discography on there. I think for a long time, like Kid Rock, I mean, he's not somebody I listen to on a regular basis, but I think for a long time none of his stuff was available on streaming. And there's even a lot of artists whose music isn't even available on streaming platforms or digital platforms. I think King Crimson, I believe, which I believe this is what Pete Pardo said in his video. I don't think none of their stuff is available like on streaming. And of course, that whole controversy with Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and a few other artists. They, with the whole Joe Rogan thing that was happening about a year ago now. All of them decided they wanted their music taken off of there. So if you're a Neil Young fan or Joni Mitchell fan, and you don't have like the physical copies, you can't listen to it on streaming now, on Spotify at least, because they've taken it down. So that's what I'm saying. It's all about that ownership. It's all about having that stuff for yourself, and you're not at the mercy of what the streaming platforms do. Another big issue is censorship. A lot of artists are being censored on streaming platforms. Let's see. XX Tentacion. Prior to his death, there was a controversy where Spotify wanted to take down his music because of some controversial issues that were going on in his life prior to his death. And a lot of people got mad about that because they still wanted to hear his music, but they were there was like some domestic issues that were going on with him and a girlfriend, or I believe, and Spotify and the other streaming platforms wanted to take his music down. And I think some artists protested against that, and they put it back up. I think Kendrick Lamar, I think he came forward and threatened to take his stuff down. A lot of big time artists threatened to take their music down from the platform, and if his stuff was taken, if his stuff wasn't reinstated. So you have those type of issues. You got censorship. You have YG, for instance. YG, his first album, My Crazy Life, he had that song, he's got that song in there called Meet the Flockers. He caught a lot of backlash because he had that line in there about robbing rich Asians. And he actually went back and took that line out of that song on the digital versions of the album. But I have the physical album. Which still has that line in the song Meet the Flockers. You know what I'm saying? So because I have that physical CD now, and it's on my iPod, I don't have to worry about that. I still got the original song with the original line and everything. And probably newer pressings of the CD probably has that line censored out too. But there's just a lot of things where artists can go back in and they can take certain things out of the original recording and add something new. They can do all kinds of crazy stuff, man. Like a lot of artists have been going back and like re-recording some of their original songs because maybe they said something back then that they don't necessarily believe in, or that they might not necessarily agree with now, and they feel a little cringe about it, and they want to change it. I've seen plenty of bands. It's being reported that plenty of them are going back in and like re-recording the original songs and stuff like that. So you don't have to worry about that if you have like the physical copies, man. Like the music is what it is from how it first came out. So another thing about physical music is that I'm trying to think what was the point I was trying to make. I think I pretty much made all the good points. Where you don't have to deal with the censorship issues so much. Yeah, just artists going back in and just editing things. Like there's been a few artists and bands that I've tried to listen to on Spotify, and I can't think of what band this was that I was trying to listen to one day on Spotify. But I have the physical copy of the album, but I was at work and I wanted to listen to it on Spotify. But I couldn't even listen to the album because like half the songs were like unstreamable. They were like grayed out. And I think it was because of some record label issues. I think the record label was having issues with that particular artist and something about those particular songs or whatever. and I couldn't even listen to the album. Like it was like because half of it was pretty much grayed out, and I was like, what's the point? It's not even the original album anymore. And now that I think about it, uh, I remember one day, and I have a CD. I have the physical CD. I need to purchase another one because the CD that I have was given to me by somebody, so I don't have the case or the liner notes or anything. But I was listening to the QB's Finest compilation not too long ago. That's a compilation that Nas put together with all like the artists from Queensbridge and so forth. So I was listening to that one day, and when it got to the song Uchiwali, I noticed that it was the edited version. Now on Spotify it says that it Uchiwali remix, but it's the edited version, and that's the only version that's available on Spotify. Anybody that knows the song Uchiwali, anybody that remembers when that QB's Finest compilation came out, y'all know that Uchiwali was one of the most sexually explicit songs on that record. You know that. I remember when I first heard that song, when I first heard the album version, I was like, "Whoa!" That's a real dirty rap song. But I was listening to that on Spotify one day, and when it got to Uchiwali, I was like, "Wait a minute, this is too clean. This is not what I remember from the album version." And I looked and it said Uchiwali remix, and then I started scrolling. I was like, "Is there like another version on here?" And no, that was the only version that was available. They pretty much took out the original album version and substituted it with the radio edited. Now every other song on that album is in its explicit form. Never mind that you got songs under people talking about busting guns and murder and stuff like that. Oh, that's fine, but no, we're gonna censor the dirty rap song where they're explicitly talking about sex. I don't know, makes no sense to me. But yeah, I remember I was on Spotify listening to that joint, and I just remember like, wait a minute, this is not the original version. The original version was way more nastier, man. Especially the last verse from the dude named Horse. Everybody knows his part was he had the best verse on that song, but I just remember when it got to his part, it was just too clean, and I was like, nah, this ain't what Uchiwali, this ain't the Uchiwali I remember, man. But yeah, you have to deal with that type of stuff. You have to deal with labels maybe refusing to like allow certain songs to be streamed or certain albums to be streamed. I've gone on there and I've seen where certain albums can't even be played and so forth. The Game, his recent album, what's that? The Drillmatic. Remember he had the song on there with Nipsey Hussle, and Nipsey's brother, Black Sam, came out and asked that song be taken off or whatever, and now you can't even play it. So if you didn't really get the song like when that album first dropped, you can't even listen to that song now. I mean, you might can go on the internet somewhere and find it. I don't know if it's available on YouTube or anything, but yeah, you can't even listen to that song now because Nipsey Hussle's estate didn't want that song on the album and so forth. So there's just a lot of things you have to deal with when it comes to streaming that you don't when you have the physical music. I mean, and just to reiterate, just having the ownership of the physical album, and to me it just shows a lot more appreciation for the music. And I don't know, man. I don't know. To me, it just streaming the album just takes away the whole fun of actually going out there and searching for certain music, man. Because I like to get out there, or sometimes I'll be on the internet. But if there's something that I'm looking for and I want to purchase, man, as far as music, I like to get out and search for it. That really takes the fun away when you just can just go on the streaming platform and just, oh, here it is, and play it. It just that's what I'm saying, that it kind of takes away the appreciation of the music, man. Like I got so much classic stuff that I was fortunate enough to find at record stores or to find online and be able to have it in my collection. Is I just look at it as somewhat kind of like a blessing. Like, you know what? Hey, I can't believe I actually own this now. I've been trying to find this for so many years, and now I actually have it in my collection. But just being able to go on a streaming platform and stream it, it just takes away from that journey and that experience. And I think this generation don't really know the the good feeling of going out to your favorite record store and buying that album that you've been anticipating and waiting on to hear. And now, don't get me wrong, streaming does have its advantages as far as like a little bit of convenience and things of that nature. I mean, I don't have to haul my whole music collection around. You know, I went through the backpack days where you had like a CD player, a bunch of freaking batteries, and some CDs in your backpack and walk around listening to you, jamming to your music. I went through that era. I grew up in that era. So, you know, having streaming does kind of provide somewhat of a convenience for that. But then again, I had this iPod Classic for that, which I probably need to get another one because I've actually kind of ran out of room on this one. So I need to see about purchasing another one because I got so much music that I like to listen to. But for me, you know, at work a lot of times I like to use my phone and I like to use Spotify to listen to music because I have a job where I'm able to be in the back somewhere while I'm preparing to do my task, and I can listen to music. And Spotify actually helps, you know, because I have a wireless speaker that I use, like right here. I have this wireless speaker that I use at work a lot of times. If I know I'm going to be in the back for a long period of time, I'll put on some music through Spotify or whatever, hook up the Bluetooth and everything, and I'll jam out to a lot of the music. So it does has its advantages. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm just more of a physical music guy than anything. And you know, I mean, yeah, you know, it has its cons too, you know, with room. You know, eventually I'm gonna need to get me some more shelves and so forth, cause I'm kind of running out of room in here to where to put my music, man. Cause you know I buy so much music, man. So that, you know, that's a little bit of a con that comes with having physical music. But at the end of the day, just being able to sometimes just sit and look at my music collection, be like, man, I can't believe that I've amassed all of this. You know, it's crazy to me, man. But yeah, man, that's just all that I wanted to talk about with this episode of BoomBox Talk. You know, I just thought I would do one of these because I haven't done a BoomBox Talk in quite a while, probably maybe a year or more. The last time I done one. But yeah, I just thought it was a good subject to talk about. You know, is why I prefer to have physical music and why I still purchase physical music, and just to give people who may not understand why there's people like me out here who like to collect music, who like to collect physical music while we do it. So maybe this will give you a sense of why we like to do it, because we're such fans of music, man, that it just brings out more of an appreciation, man. It's just a great feeling to own, like, especially rare stuff. But maybe this will give you a sense of why we do that. But yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this Boombox Talk. I'm gonna try to do my best to kind of resurrect this series, because it is pretty cool to kind of get thoughts off, just random thoughts and stuff like that. But if you guys did enjoy this video, just do me a huge favor. If you can hit that thumbs up, give me a like, because it does help the channel. Also, be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap that bell. That way you'll be notified when I drop new content. A huge thank you to everybody that subscribed to the channel, everybody that's been watching the videos and showing their support. I really do appreciate it. And as always, hope everybody has a blessed day, a blessed week. Happy New Year's. I don't know. I'm kind of late on that though, but depending on when this video drops, it don't matter. We still early in the new year, so Happy New Year to everybody. And as always, hope everybody has a blessed day, a blessed week, and love, peace, and music. Peace out, y'all.